That's one of his favorite songs. So we've got J.D. Elliott, Clemson247, and works for the SID here at Clemson. So thanks for being with us. J.D., let's talk a little Clemson Tiger baseball. Just tell us a little bit what you do for Clemson247.
For Clemson247, I'm one of the main writers. I do a little writing, a little analysis on after basketball games, after baseball games, and a little bit of do some on football as well. And so basically, I'll just write a my thoughts column where I kind of break down the game, just kind of using my own personal analysis.
Yeah, well, you got some great articles. I read some of them, and I think you do a great job. Well, let's looking ahead to this Clemson Tiger baseball season open up next Friday. Just tell the listeners a little bit about that, and what can we expect going into next season?
Well, the Tigers bring back a lot of talent from last season. Definitely one of the strengths coming into the season would be the pitching staff, which almost comes back almost intact. You have Friday starter Daniel Gossett, then freshman, now sophomore Matthew Crownover has come a long way from the beginning of the season towards the end. He'll be your Saturday starter. And I think a lot of Clemson fans have a little bit of bad taste in their mouth from baseball after last season. You know, it seemed like after the extra inning loss to North Carolina in the ACC tournament, it kind of seemed like the Tigers never really could get their mojo back. And, you know, obviously everybody remembers going down to Columbia and losing in the regional. And so I think they're currently 13th in the AP and 16th in the USA Today, or 13th in Baseball America. And I think that's right about right with the way they finished last season.
Yeah, you talk about all the returning talent. This stat here, they're actually returning 23 lettermen, only 8 are gone. And that's only 1 starting pitcher and 1 starting position player. And they're bringing back 3 all-ACC players. So how important is it that most of the roster, especially the starters, have already had experience and 3 all-ACC players?
Well, the big loss is center fielder Thomas Brittle from last season's team. He's been one of the main cogs the past 2 seasons. And you also lose veteran pitcher Scotty Firth, who was a senior, we lost the eligibility restrictions. But he started a lot at the beginning of the season, kind of warmed back into the bullpen role where he spent most of his junior year. But I can't stress how important it is to have so much returning talent, especially returning sophomores. At shortstop, you have Tyler Krieger, he's one of the best defensive shortstops in the ACC, who I think could really make a jump his sophomore year. And then not to mention right fielder Steven Duggar, who's batted basically the 3rd and 4th spot, one of the big power hitter roles as a true freshman. And then you obviously have Matthew Crownover, who's expected to log a lot of innings for the Tigers this season.
So you mentioned Friday pitcher Daniel Gossett. Friday pitcher is basically the equivalent of an ace. And Garrett Boulware behind the plate. These are both guys that were drafted into the MLB out of high school in the 42nd round for Boulware and 16th round for Gossett, but decided to come play college ball, hone up on their skills. How do you think that move has worked out for them, and what kind of draft stock are they seeing when their careers at Clemson are over?
Well, for Garrett Boulware, it's been tremendous. Obviously, one of the main reasons Garrett Boulware saw so much playing time last season is Spencer Keyboom left early, was drafted in the 5th round after his junior season, which kind of shocked everyone, and he for the Washington Nationals. And so Garrett Boulware wasn't expected to be the opening day. Clemson didn't think Garrett Boulware was going to be their opening day starter last year, but he's made the most of his opportunity. He led the team in home runs and is one of the most feared power hitters in the ACC. And so it's you know he's done a great bit for his draft stock, moving up from 42nd. And then Daniel Gossett, you know, he just continues to be one of those dominant pitchers in the ACC, and the Tigers feel good about him going up against almost anybody.
Yeah, when I saw that stat about Boulware being drafted in the 42nd round, I was shocked because going out to games last year, you could obviously tell he was the guy on the batting side. He power hitter for sure. And you talked about Boulware and the strong pitching staff. What are some of the other strengths of this team as we head into the season?
Well, I think obviously we talked about the pitching staff, but one of the reasons the pitching staff is so good is because of the depth of the pitching staff. You got Gossett, Crownover Friday, Saturday. Then Sunday, you have a whole host of players that are fighting for that spot. You have Jake Long. Brody Kerner, Clay Schmidt, and a couple other guys. Zach Irwin competing for that spot. And so that's one of the reasons. It's going to be hard. There's not going to be space in the rotation for all four of those guys. But if you're looking for one to lock down the Sunday starter job, I think Jake Long's the guy to keep your eye on. He's a redshirt. He's a transfer. He had a great summer, posted outstanding numbers, and I think he's a guy that could really jump on the scene this year for the Tigers.
Right, and talk about some of these freshmen and redshirt freshmen. A pretty strong class, it looked like. Glenn Batson was the number 9 player in the state, number 1 at third base, and a redshirt freshman, Garrett Laverne, a strong pitcher who dominated in the summer leagues this year. What can we see some significant playing time from any of these freshmen and redshirt freshmen?
Yeah, I definitely think that's definitely possible. One guy to keep your eye on is Chris Oakey, who one of the highest players that decided to come to Clemson this offseason. And he could definitely make an impact for the Tigers this year, and will get substantial playing time at catcher as they try and figure out how they're going to work out the Garrett Boulware, Chris Oakey catcher DH situation. But I think you'll see both of them in the lineup real often. I think Oakey's rated the 3rd best prospect by his class, so that's the guy to keep an eye on. Obviously, I think another guy to keep an eye on is redshirt freshman Wales Tony, who's one of the hardest throwers on the team. And I think you could see the Tigers have a need for somebody to step up in the bullpen. I think maybe you could see his name up there.
And on the flip side of that, what about the seniors on this team? The most prominent seniors are Shane Kennedy, John McGibbon, and Steve Wilkerson. Are we going to see any of these guys in the MLB in the future?
I think all 3 of these players have a chance to get drafted. Shane Kennedy's obviously missing a little bit of the season with an injury, and so it'll be interesting to see how he comes back. He was probably the most consistent hitter the Tigers had all last season, one of the best base stealers, and obviously one of the overall offensive threats, playing third base and DH. And then I think he could go fairly high, especially if he comes back and plays like he did last season. And then you got guys like McGibbon, who is just outstanding at first base defensively. You kind of want a little more offensive production than you had from McGibbon last year, especially from the first base spot, which is typically one of the big power hitters in baseball. And then Steve Wilkerson, he kind of had a disappointing end to the season, and I think that this could definitely be a year where he bounces back and gets a nice little paycheck from some MLB team.
Yeah, and 2 more questions for you on the Tigers baseball. What's your excitement level on a level of 1 to 10? I know mine's at a 10 right now.
Yeah, well, it's definitely up there. I'll have to say 9.5, 10 for sure.
And once again, we're with J.D. Elliott from Clemson247 and from the Clemson Sports Information Department. Let's get one final question on the Clemson Tigers baseball team, and I think it's the most important question in everyone's mind. Is this team going to make a trip out to Omaha, Nebraska as the summer starts?
As of today, I would say yes, I do think this team is, because of basically all the returning players they have. And I think that with all the returning guys and with all the pitching staff being so deep, that's one element that they didn't necessarily have last season. They had a lot of freshmen coming in. They didn't know how they were going to play. And so I think all those guys becoming sophomores, and then obviously your more established players, that some of your stars like Boulware, Wilkerson, Gossett, all those guys are now entering their junior and senior years. And so I think if the Tigers are going to, this would be a great year for the Tigers to make it to Omaha, because I do think they'll lose a lot of talent over the offseason.
Yeah, I have to agree there. I think this is the time, if not now, I don't know when it's going to be. And we mentioned some of the redshirt freshmen and the true freshmen, but a lot of senior talent. So if they want to make a trip to Omaha, I think it's got to be this year. And you can check this team out starting next Friday, and that's Valentine's Day. It's a good date. You know, they say diamonds are a girl's best friend. Maybe you can convince her that the baseball diamond is her best friend that day. But we were happy to be joined by J.D. Elliott today and all our other guests. So talking a little Clemson baseball with
J.D. for coming on with us. Once again, you've turned into Shaking the Southland Sports, WSBFF in Clemson. So tell us a little bit, just to wrap it up, about the series coming up next week, who we're playing, and I guess it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday series. I think it's also, we've got basketball on Saturday too. So
it's a great weekend in Clemson sports next weekend. We open the season against Eastern Michigan on Friday at 4 p.m. As Michael did say earlier, it is Valentine's Day. I hope it's a nice early game, so hopefully y'all can go to the game and then maybe go out with your girlfriend afterwards or something like that. But and then we also do have a game this Saturday against Virginia. and that'll be an exciting matchup.
Right.
Virginia, one of the top teams in the ACC, and one of the teams that is almost destined to get an NCAA tournament bid.
Huge game.
And that is, I think we only played one home game in 27 days, so hopefully student support was pretty sad on Tuesday night.
Yeah.
So on Saturday, there's really no excuse, especially if they can go up there and beat Notre Dame. I mean, maybe Syracuse, you never know. You can split that. I mean, you need to get out there and support the Tigers. They're classmates here, and they're out there busting their tail to represent this university, and they're doing a fine job. And JD, thanks again, and keep up the great work for the SID. And I'm sure we'll see you down at more basketball games. And with Clemson247, we'll keep reading.
Thanks for having me, guys.
All right, thank you. And that's JD Elliott from Clemson247 does great work down there with the Clemson SID 2.